What's up guys, Eric Vasquez here from teachmetodesign.com, and in today's lesson I'd like to talk to you about the benefits of using smart objects in your design work. Now whether it's for resizing an image or creating some easily updatable 3D text, there's a number of ways that you can go about it. But in this lesson I'll be giving you guys 5 examples of how you can use smart objects in your own work to help you design better. Alright guys, so today I'm going to be talking to you about smart objects and why you should be using them in your work, how it can help you, and some of the things that you can do with them. So in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you 5 things that you can do with smart objects that will hopefully start to show you guys some of the benefits of those. So let's start off with tip number 1. I'm just opening up a stock image here that I downloaded, and this very dapper looking couple here that I've already kind of silhouetted from the background. And what I want to do is basically show you the difference between working with a raster layer or if you were to convert it to a smart object and be working with a smart object layer. So once I have this photo open, I'm just going to go over here and create a new document, and let's just make it 11 inches wide by 8.5 inches tall. RGB, 300 DPI, that's fine. Alright, so what I want to do first is come over and just drag this silo layer into this document. Now, this is just a regular raster layer, but I want to show you what happens. Let's say you're playing around with this in a composition and you're kind of experimenting with, the size or how you want this cropped. Maybe you just want to show one of the two people here, or you might decide afterwards that you want them to be pretty small in the composition. And this is pretty normal, I mean, you should change your mind and take a look at how different things are looking whenever you're doing any kind of photo compositing or photo manipulation work or anything like that. But what's going to happen is after I scale this up and down a few times, you're going to start to notice a loss in the quality of the image, especially if I make it really small and then bring it back up to its regular size. Alright, so you'll see here I've just kind of done that a couple of times, and then I'm going to make them larger once again, and by now you can see that they're looking pretty blurry. Okay, so that's the problem with working with raster images, is that you can only resize them so much before you start to notice a loss in quality. So what I'm going to do instead is come back over here to my original stock photo image where I have the silo, and I'm just going to hold down the control key and click on the layer, and this time change it to a smart object. Alright, now let's drag this over into our new composition and turn off the raster layer that we were just working with. And what happens now with your smart object is that you can actually resize it as much as you want, and you won't notice the same loss in quality. It will basically retain the quality of the original image that we converted to a smart object. Alright, so even if I do this, three times, 5 times, doesn't really matter. I'll still have a much sharper and crisper looking image than when we were just working with a raster layer. So you'll see if I turn that on here, let me just make them the same size, or about the same size. You can really notice the difference here on the guy as well as the woman here. It's just a much nicer looking image, much sharper when you work with smart objects. So that is one reason why you should be using smart objects, especially if you're doing any kind of photo compositing or photo manipulation work. And another nice thing about it is, well, I'll show you in step 2. Okay, so reason number 2 why you should be working with smart objects is because you can apply as many filters and adjustments as you want non-destructively. So what I mean by that is that if I just kept this a raster layer, right, and I'm just going to make a copy of it by pressing Command J on the keyboard, and if let's say I want to apply like a sharpen or a high pass or something like that, just come sharpen, unsharp mask. Okay, it sharpens my image a little bit, which is great. Let's say I wanted to do it again, just to apply another instance of it. Well, that's great, but what if I change my mind later and I wanted to modify those settings? Well, you're kind of stuck with it at this point because you've just applied them destructively to a raster image. So What I would propose as a better solution would be to first convert your image to a smart object like we did before by holding down the Control key and choosing Convert to Smart Object. Now, when I come up to Filter and choose Sharpen Unsharp Mask, I can keep my settings and everything like that the same, but you'll notice now that I have what's called a Smart Filter, and that basically allows me to double-click and change my filter settings as much as I want, as often as I want, until I get the best looking results. Okay, so you're not totally stuck if you apply a setting that you wanted to undo. If I decide later, gee, that's a little too sharp, I want to bring it down a little bit, well, I can just do that on this smart object layer, whereas when we're working with a raster layer, you basically have to start over. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to come back here to my blank document, and I want to show you guys another cool thing about working with smart objects. So this is going to be tip 3. Alright, so tip 3, I'm basically going to just add some text really quick. And I want to show you guys another way that you can use a smart object layer, another benefit of using a smart object layer. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do once I create my text is, again, hold down the Control key, click on the layer, and choose Convert to Smart Object. And unlike the previous examples in steps, in tips 1 and 2, unlike tips 1 and 2, we're going to be doing something with a text layer. So the same things apply as in step 2, where you can apply filters to your text if you want. But one cool thing about this is that we're going to be using some actions to create kind of a long shadow effect for our text. So once you've converted your main text layer to a smart object, go ahead and press Command or Control J to make a copy of it and move it below this layer. Now from here I want to pull out my Actions tab, and I already have some actions made for this, but I can show you guys how to do it really quick. So let's just say we want to create a new action and call it like long shadow. Okay? I'm going to hit record, and basically all I'm going to do is press Command J to make a copy, move it below my other layer by pressing Command or Control in the left bracket, and then I'm going to move it down 1 pixel and to the right 1 pixel, and then just hit stop. And now you'll see here in our long shadow action, it's basically just showing us those steps. Layer via copy, we moved it down, we moved it right, and that's it. So I'm going to basically just, select this most recent layer, and I'm just going to play that action again a bunch of times. And you'll see as I do this, it's basically creating this kind of extrusion effect, which is going to be our shadow. So we'll make about 40 copies of our smart object layer, select them all, and then put them in a group folder. And let's just call this folder like shadow or something like that. That's very basic, very simple. But what this is going to do is, by using a smart object, it will allow us to update this text at any point. So we're going to, again, just rename that, call it shadow, and maybe reduce the opacity to about 40 or 50%, like that. Okay, so normally if we were just doing this effect with raster layers, we would have to recreate our shadow if we decided that we wanted to change this text. But by working with a text layer, you can come in here and just say smart, for example, okay? And hit save, and then when you come back to your other document, you'll see that your shadows have all updated as well, because all of these copies here that we're using are derived from our original smart object layer. So that is a really great way and a really great use of smart objects that a lot of people don't often use. So there's another great way that you can use a smart object, and another reason why you should be using smart objects in your work. Tip number 4. So for this tip, we're going to be talking about using logos or updating things between Illustrator and Photoshop. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of grab this random shape that I created in Illustrator, and I'm just going to open it up real fast to show you guys. It's basically just a kind of a diamond shape like this. It could be a container for a logo or something. But I'm just going to copy it from Illustrator, come over here to Photoshop, and paste it in my document. Now I'm going to say that I want to keep this a smart object layer or a vector smart object. And the nice thing about this is, again, much like we saw in tip 1, I can resize this, I can scale it up, I can scale it down. It doesn't really matter how often I scale it, it's always going to stay sharp, right? And that's the important thing. You want your work to look sharp, you want it to look clean, you want it to look crisp. But let's say that we wanted to swap this out or maybe change something about it, right? Normally, if I just came to my layer style dialog box here, if I wanted to change the color to red, well, it's going to change the entire shape to red. But let's say I just want to change this stroke color. Okay, well, what I can do is double click on the smart object, and it's going to open up in Illustrator. Now I can use my direct selection tool, A on the keyboard, and select either the centerpiece or the outline here. Alright, I'm just going to select the outline and change the color to red, and then I'm just going to hit Command S to save it. And now when I come back into Photoshop, you'll see that that change has been applied. So that's another way that you can use smart objects, and also kind of a cool way to be using Illustrator and Photoshop together. Tip number 5. So here's one last way that I want to show you guys how you can use smart objects in your work to really help you and to be more productive and things like that. So I'm just going to pick up where we left off, where we have this shape here in Illustrator, but let's say we want to replace this shape altogether. Normally I could go back into Illustrator, I could import another smart object, and I'd be all set. But there's actually an easier way to do this. So if I have this smart object layer selected, I can come up to the layer menu and then come down to smart objects, and we're going to choose replace contents. Alright, and then from there it's going to ask you to kind of navigate to what you want to replace it with. So I'm going to use a shape that I created for a previous tutorial and just hit place, and then we're just going to go ahead and hit OK, and now that's going to replace our other shape with this shape. So you can easily kind of just swap out smart objects. This would also work really well if you had an image in here or several images that you wanted to then replace and update. So again, you just select your smart object layer, come up to the layer menu and choose smart objects, replace contents, and then hit place, hit OK, and there you go. So you're just replacing the smart object within your Photoshop document. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If so, please give us a thumbs up and like, leave a comment below or subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for our email list as well, guys. We're doing the Design Better contest, which gives you the opportunity to win a design Q&A as well as a design critique. If you tell me a project that you're working on that you may feel stuck on or need some help with, I'll be picking 3 to 5 people every month and reaching out to you and asking you to send me one of your projects that you're working on so that I can give you personalized tips and techniques to help you improve. So go ahead and check that out, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.